take it off. You know, the legs are easy enough to do by yourself. It's when you got to do all the upper stuff. That's when you need a squire.
Yeah.
That is one of the worst feelings. When the pins pop out of the knees and the greaves and it presses the whole thing into the nerve cluster in your knee. That is about the cheating.
Having fun?
Yes. He's getting ready to get shot out of the cannon. Yes.
Will the cannon be aimed at any of the dragons?
Well, we're going to be aiming for the toad, so if any of them happen to be flying between there at the time, it should be quite a spectacle.
Oh, yeah. It just so happens that the dragon and possible.
There you go. So Constantine and David in the tech there will be armoring up here. And we're going to be doing a show at 3 o'clock about the justice system in medieval England. And after we've gone through a few court cases, there'll be a couple of trials by combat, one of which will be the last one, which will be on the trial between David and Constantine. Yes. We have about 20 minutes until the show. Position the witness.
Be my normal.
Then harass on. Good day. All right then.
The candy store again?
I never thought it was much at all. Are you getting some for it like that? No? You okay? Okay. You still talking to me.
That's the idea.
I'm the bad guy. Am I the bad guy? Am I the bad guy? You're smiling, so I'm guessing yes, I'm the bad guy. Okay. Yeah, well, there's also
Totally worth it, John. Totally. It won't hurt us at all.
You help your papa get dressed?
Yeah, not quite.
No. You can introduce it to Alex. Take a big mic there. Yeah, because for Thursday. Less time to play the heat. I would like to have for it. Marsha, can you give me the hair and standing there? That didn't epoxy to it on.
I had that here instantly. I was like, oh, here we go.
Here we go. Oh, yeah, you're right. I should put that. I should put this. You need a hand? You guys got it down? Okay. Cool. Just like I was with you, man. I didn't want anyone to fucking with you. No, I know, and that's what I love. That's what I loved about. That's what I love about having people who know how your armor goes together.
Thomas, you go to the bathroom? You want to go inside?
Jump up and down.
It's a reason to get me off.
Yeah, I still think I'm going to cannibalize mine. No, I mean like, I'm going to literally here, and then do a fall embroidered, and you don't have to wear the male shirt. Oh yes. Everything
You want to fly, Mr. Ryan? You want to fly?
That was mine. Is that yours? Oh, that's his. This is his. It's a tiny. He's got the tiny wings. Oh, I've got mine. Wait. Alright, I'll leave you two to it then. You have a good day.
Okay, bedroom's better.
I'm just telling you.
Show your belt.
Preserve the cooling effect.
Gather these patents from the king. These are not patents from the king. These are scribblings and illustrations of cats as bishops. A monkey riding a goat. That's quite a good one, actually. I really admire your artistry. Squirrels practicing jousting. Squirrels? He's my good. You're a squirrel penner, sir.
I too demand trial
Make way!
Over this body, you shall be witness to it. The dead shall have their place.
Are you ready to meet your maker, sir?
I know my maker quite well. How about you, sir? How about you? What has happened here?
Kill the priest! Kill the priest!
Wait! Finish him off! Kill him! Kill him! This man's not dead!
What?
Of course not!
What about the smell of almonds?
I bought them from the spice merchant.
Oh! Not again!
Kill him! Kill him!
Praise God! I am innocent!
I can kill him and do another trial by combat.
Yes!
So at this time, it appears my trial is the last true trial. So I need a squire to finish arming me.
Thank you so much. We're going to be preparing now for the second part of our combat, which is a lot more involved and is the harness fight, which is harness is the name for armor. These gentlemen are partially harnessed and getting hooked up by their squires the rest of them. They're wearing what is called transitional harness, which is a mix of the mail of earlier periods and steel plate. Over the course of the 14th century, more and more steel plate was used to protect against blows.
How many of you have heard of the Industrial Revolution? When did it happen? The 19th century, that's correct, miss. Unfortunately, what they didn't tell you is there was another Industrial Revolution in the Middle Ages. They began to use waterways to power machines so they create more steel, smelt more steel. So you'd see advances in armor such as this. What David and Constantine are going to be doing here, obviously, other than killing each other, is using their weapons to find gaps in the armor, not attacking the plate directly unless they use the poleaxe. David, what weapons will you be fighting today?
All three if my body will allow me!
All right. So today, David and Constantine will be fighting with the poleaxe, the long spear, and half sword. The spear and the half sword will be functioning a lot very similarly, with the exception of the half sword, which will also have some other functions as a giant hammer if someone is so inclined. The poleaxe, however, is like the lightsaber of the Middle Ages. It is designed to go through plate armor and bludgeon and kill the person wearing it. That fight will be much more straightforward. The other two, they will be working to find gaps in the armor, aiming for mail joints to penetrate the links and pierce the body of their opponent. We will be doing 3 passes with each weapon as time and fatigue or heat stroke allows. David, how are you doing? Voice check, doing? All right. Does anyone have any questions about the combat before we get to, well, they finish suiting up? Yes, sir, ma'am. Half sword is where you take the long sword and choke up on it, so you use it like a tiny spear. You'll be using that, as I said before, to find gaps in plate armor, aiming for the armpit, the neck, the elbow joint, or the groin. Tactics, time and distance allow. You can also spin it over and use it like a giant hammer, battering your opponent, using it as a hook to either smash the helmet, if so inclined, penetrate the visor with the crossguard, or use it as a hook to drag them to the ground, at which point you would then pull your knife and use that to find gaps in their armor, such as the throat or the eye slits. Another common target in this is the palm of the hand. As good as armor defenses are,
you need to have control with your hands. You need to be able to use your weapon. So you can't armor them. So that is a very legitimate target in this fight. And you may see one of them get stabbed in the hand. It's very painful. How are we doing? Good. Any other questions?
I have a question, Sir Marshal.
Yes, sir. It depends how many squires you have. If we were really putting it, we had 2 squires, we could probably get him suited up inside of 5 minutes. If we had everything laid out like it was supposed to be in the tent. What's up, question?
With the pole lights, what are the fits for pole lights?
Yes. Yeah, the thrust, you got to aim for the nail points. I'll try to face
This is another weapon set that was used at the time. This is what we used for our little judicial duel, which of course was a theatrical duel. We were staying out of range of each other's weapons so we wouldn't actually hit each other. And we'd rehearse that. That was a make-believe fight. What you're going to see now is not a make-believe fight. They're using wooden weapons, but they're going to be hitting each other. So, and we're really happy that our senior guy, Mr. Dave Teague, has come out of retirement to do this. It is a brutal business. And even for a much younger man, it's a lot to demand of the body because these hits are hard. Medieval swords were not dull, as some myths suggest. They were about kitchen knife sharpness. So more than sharp enough to take off a limb. The problem with harness veteran armored fighting is that cutting across mail and certainly plate doesn't really do anything. The sword won't cut through armor. So that's why you have to have swords to drive in. What we were doing was sword and buckler combat, which is the everyday carry weapons of the 14th century. So even clerics and judges and noblemen who weren't necessarily in combat would carry these around from town to town because there was no real law enforcement at the time. If you were set upon by bandits, this would be your go-to weapon set. And it was widely distributed and extremely popular. And we used this little tiny shield called a buckler, not to fend off blows, but to control the center of the fight, as you probably saw us doing there. When you stick this out, if you imagine, if this is in front of me, no cut from you can get to me without coming through the little buckler space first. It defines the center of the fight. And when combined with the sword, you can use it to control the center, walk down the opponent's sword, shield strike, and cut up, which is one of the classic moves. You can also cut into it, cut over it, cut around it, perform mutachios, and counter shield strikes and all sorts of things. There's all sorts of fun moves you can do with this. We have a school in town that's been operating for years that teaches this system of sword fighting with sword and buckler. And are there any questions on that as we get ready for the main event? The reason they're harnessing these on so tightly is because if they're loose, they not only will expose areas of attack, but they can hurt like you wouldn't believe. Because the armor plates are articulated, but if they get out of their location, trying to move the armor your leg can become impossible inside your own suit. And at this point in history, you don't see, this was not the time when they had fully articulated head-to-toe plate armor. This was a transitional period where there's still the chains underneath the plates, and the plates are coming off what they call points. So it's an awkward system to operate now, where they're improving it all the time. It is a main, one of the main weapons for duels from the period. It's a common weapon. You would not have seen this used too much in armored combat. Because at this point, you can half sword with an arming sword, is what this is, but you've lost a lot of leverage. It has a little bit, but it doesn't have much. You probably invert it. And interestingly enough, you can absolutely grab a sharp sword this way and use it as a weapon. Although it's counterintuitive. Sword grabs like the one we demonstrated in our fight were absolutely part of every combat system of the period. We study 133, MS 133, which is a text from southern Germany around 1320 and is the oldest surviving fighting system from Europe and the Western world. It's an illustrated treatise written by a cleric from the time period, and nobody knows a whole lot about the background to it, but it describes a very well integrated and effective fighting system that uses everything from sword grabs to wrestling. And you may see these gentlemen wrestle. The fighting systems of the period were fully integrated, and once you got too close to use your sword, you'd flow into wrestling. So they may end up on the ground, at which point they would often go to their Rondell daggers that they carry at their sides. And at that point try to finish each other off by lifting the visor and jamming it into the brain, or going going up through the armor, up underneath the armor, and jamming it into the organ. It's a very brutal business. And this is how they would have fought combat in, for example, Crécy or Agincourt, the famous battles that you hear about at the time, when the knights were not just in dueling, but in field combat. They had to use the same sort of techniques because it's the only way you can get through armor. Although in that case, pole weapons were the main tool in open field combat, and those are the most lethal and terrifying of all. The 14th century saw a ferocious development of pole weaponry, from simple spears evolving into incredibly complicated pole arms with all sorts of hooks and prods and devices that are specifically designed to crack open the riveted links of the main. Ready? Oh yes, here we go. Here's an example.
Fine example of a pole axe here. See, we have an axe blade on the end. If you add the lever to, it gives it an extraordinary amount of power generated. Very handy for breaking through solid steel plate like that. I'm not going to hit you with this. I like you too much. We've got a nice rectangle.
Okay, David, are you ready? Constantine, are you ready? Play on.
Underneath.
Constantine, to the front. Good job. Constantine. Are you good? Ready? David, are you ready? Bush, are you ready? Lay on.
Let's go red. Blue, black.
Point for David, thunderstroke to the side of the head. Arm malfunction.
I know that.
Okay, let's go to a different one.
Go over there. Go over there. To the Italian. Go to the Italian. The red one.
Get him! Let's see him.
You got him.
You got him?
Yeah.
Okay. Get him!
Use the feet. Oh, I think you got him.
Yep.
I'm rushing, Doc. I got it. Just because you've been spending all your time in Washington.
All right, I'm counting. Okay, Coast Guard to the advisor and all that. I'm letting you guys call that. I'll call that one. If it's thunderstrokes ahead, and let you guys. Let's get it buckled because that's super tight. Ask David how it is. All right. Okay, David, are you ready? Ready. Constantine, are you ready? Lay on. Okay, good job. Constantine. Are you good? Ready? David, are you ready? Bush, are you ready? Lay on.
No, I mean.
Let's go red!
Okay, all right. Bush called it. Point for David. Thunderstroke to the side of the head. Woo! All right. David, are you ready? Hold. Arm malfunction. Hold. All right, Constantine? Ready? David's ready. Constantine, submit. Let's see here. You got him?
Yeah.
I'm going to call that a draw because I'm not sure who got it. I don't know if he got his foot off, so I'm going to call that a push, okay? All right, so much work. All right, Brian.
Sabaton lost.
Good fight.
Wire. Is it a break for Sabaton?
Your chin strap.
Yeah. I'm done.
All right. So if anybody wants pictures with us, now's a good time. All right, final score. David won the spear unanimously. 1 point to David on the half sword, and I called a push on the second pass. Pretty good fighting overall.
So what's the verdict on the wool, though?
Oh, guilty!
Our program today, it was a long one. We wanted to get a lot of stuff in. We really appreciate your attention. And I'll be over doing my other hat, which is calligraphy.
Is that good?
And indulgences. And these gentlemen will be around.
We might have missed it, but let's go find out.
Fighting in the Middle Ages.
If we did, we'll go to the next one, okay? Next one. The next show.
Thank you for your kind attention. Have a good day. You thought you had me when I was down.
Yeah, I had that dagger before. I took the ball.
That was a good ground fight.
I don't know if we can come back here.
I'm not taking off. We're fixing it.
Who wants photos? Now's the time.
Oh wait, I do have that. But
Hey, I got my phone and I can send you pictures.
yeah?
Yeah, taking a picture. All right. What's that?
We're fixing my sabotage, so we'll take a picture.
They're taking the easy way through.
Huh?
They're taking the easy way through the fence.
Is that a rudeness? Or you just happy?
Do that any way you can.
Hi guys. You want to stand with the old guy? The old knight? Well, you're the one that won. Victor! Everybody loves winners. Winner! Winner, chicken dinner. Yeah.
Yeah, it was so okay. You are
That was awesome.
Yeah.
Ready? Bush, are you ready? Lay on! Hold! Okay. Rest under the arm. Rest under the arm. Point to David. Reset. You can cheer if you want. It's okay. Good. Push it. Good. Okay, lay on.
Next.
I think you got him. Even if you got him on this one. You got you. All right. Point to David.
Yeah. Well, let's get serious.
Good. Go. Straight. Lay on. Oh! David has it! Dagger to the throat! Woo! Yes, 2-0! David is the winner of the spear! And Kyle has won the day! Age and treachery! Would you gentlemen like to fight next? We've got this hammer in here, which is handy for knocking him down or using it as a hook. But also, that helmet's got a lot of padding, but it can only go so far when you're using a lever and delivering a hammer stroke with it. So they will be using it, and ordinarily this would also have some kind of a spike on the end. On this armor, the sabatons on the feet are typically the thinnest part of the armor, so it is a viable tactic to use this to pierce the foot of your opponent and then follow through with other techniques while they're sitting there screaming. Maybe just about ready. You have your garments ready to go?
You can kind of see why during the period that armies would have to sort of get themselves assembled and get everybody ready before they fought. And each side had to go through the process of getting everybody prepared, because you can't wear this stuff all day without a lot of heat stroke.
Typically, if you're a military or an armored soldier, you would be walking around and have your legs on and your shirt. Are you ready to go, David?
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, Calista, you ready to go?
All right.
Which weapons would you gentlemen like to start with?
The spear!
The spear.
I like this spear.
Okay, Jarvis.
Just a reminder for you gentlemen, when you make contact with male, they fall to the ground.
Hey, Jay.
First, if you have your dagger on, you're going your visor with your fist. And if they were coming back to full throat, they don't have to get stopped and get out of the way.
I know
Where's my buckle, please? My buckle's falling. Do I have a dagger? Yes, you do. Is that a good position?
But it's like a whole thing for me.
What shit did I move up just outside the list? Right here. Turn around. Alright, good to go?
Do we need the breastplate stretcher?
Where's the breastplate stretcher?
On the outside. All right. I'll be jumping out of here momentarily. All right. David, are you ready?
Ready?
Question, are you ready?
Ready?
Lay on!
Out! Out!
Hold! Hold!
Okay. Rest under the arm. Rest under the arm. Point to David.
Hey!
Y'all can cheer if you want. Okay. Good. Buster, you good? Okay, lay on. Hold. southwest of the field here. Did he get you? Up here, around here? I think he's good. I think you got him. Okay. Yeah, you got him on this one. You got you. All right. Point to David! Woo! Good. There you go. Lay on. Do it. Go.
Oh, David has it.
David was through. Woo!
Yeah.
Pass 3-0. David is the winner of the spear. Agent Kyle has won the day. Age and treachery. Which weapon would you gentlemen like to fight next? A half sword or the coma? What weapon next, gentlemen? Half sword! Half sword it is! Move it back a little bit. Different gauntlets! Bigger gauntlets! Wire! Whoa! How you doing?
Stuck in my head right now. Oh my God. Like it's just playing over and over in my head.
I like that.
Matter of the wall! Where is my squire? My squire, I must be dressed.
Also, that poison entirely failed to work. What you're about to see next, and thank you for indulging us in our little performance here. What you're about to see next is a combat by knights in armor. We call it harness. And it takes them a little bit of time to get suited up. They are in late 14th century armor, which is transitional armor. You can think of the Knights of the Crusade having mail all over their bodies with very little steel armor on top of it. The 14th century saw a bloody arms race where the weapons got more and more powerful and could break through the rivets that hold the mail together. Therefore, it was imperative if a knight wanted to live to wear more and more steel on his body, which is what's happening with these gentlemen now. They have, as you can see, steel plates covering the underlying mail, which itself sits on a armor piece called a gambazon that's many layers of linen. So these things are rather hot. And on a sunny day, you will see them call for water on a regular basis. Now, the little duel we just did was theatrical, and Matt and I spar with the Messer pretty much every week when we're not doing Ren Fair. So we're used to doing that. These gentlemen will be not really pulling their punches. We give them wooden instruments so that we don't actually kill them. But the hits will be real, and what we're going to do is...
I'm going to try my best to kill Sir Constantine. He's going to try his best to kill me. I am 60 years old. He is 25 years my junior.
It's a lose-lose.
Lose-lose. Either I win and he sucks, or he beats an old man, which doesn't take much of it.
So it's youth and fury versus old age and guile. And we'll see if we'll see what the sun does to poor knightly Keith.
What do you wish to fight?
Up to you, sir. It's your choice.
I say poleaxe.
We can go for the big kahuna. Give you an all-out fight with the knightly poleaxe. The last few times we've fought, I've used the spear, which I'm much better at, and I've owned Constantine far too many times. We have fought with the half-sword, which is hard for you to tell what's going on. But if you wish, I will grab up the poleaxe, which is the real knightly weapon that is hard to miss the activity with, because it's a big axe on a pole. Poleaxe, 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 poleaxe. Yeah!
Just a quick aside, David and Constantine will be fighting 3 passes with the poleaxe. If they're still feeling up to it, we may continue with other weapons. The poleaxe is pretty much the pinnacle of melee weapons technology at the time. It's like the lightsaber for the Middle Ages. If you nail somebody in armor with this axe at full strength, it's going through. It doesn't matter what they're wearing. You also have potentially 2 other spear points on either end. These don't have the same penetrating power as the axe, but if you can land the point into the mail and then couch like a lance and press forward, you can break the links of the mail and pierce the body of your opponent. Constantine and David will be attempting to do that if they strike with either point on this, in addition to using the axe to try and bludgeon each other. Additionally, they may use this in low blows to trip the other combatant and take it to ground fighting. As you can see, there's quite a bit of affection between these two.
So far, Constantine took last Sunday, I took yesterday. Today is the real winner.
So far as 1-1 for the day, we shall see who the score is. Do you need any water or anything? You good? Okay. Do you have any questions before we begin as they're finishing their getting ready? Anyone? Between their harnesses, they usually range between 60 and 70 pounds.
Ours are both around 70.
Yeah. The helmet alone they're wearing is around 12 pounds with the bishop's mantle on there. So they have quite a bit of layered protection on their necks and other joints because they still have to be able to move. You didn't really see fully articulated plate until much later, usually around the 1500s or late 1400s. Don't forget the chin straps. Tell them both of you.
In the back corner. $10 on the old man. 10 crooks on the old man.
Good, you're a bit cheesy.
My money's on Constantine. Red ones go faster. Whack!
Some of you would like to come and wrap around a little bit. Just don't go past these barriers because these guys do have a tendency to shove each other out the gate. They're so inclined. You'd like a better view. All right. David, are you ready? Constantine, are you ready? All right, lay on, gentlemen. Hold. Koisha struck a blow to David's neck with the axe. Good point, Koisha.
Adjust helm. Wire, adjust my helm. Hold it down. There we go. Good.
Chin straps good?
Good. Good. Don't just move. He hasn't hurt enough. Yeah.
Ready to go, David? Koisha, ready to go? Good. Lay on. switch right here.
I yield! Oh!
Yeah, flat.
Need a breather of water?
Sure. Yeah. Just mask up.
Mask up.
Yeah. Need to adjust next year. The squad is working on it.
You guys are quiet. Are you having fun?
Yeah.
You're like, what the hell's going on? A little bit of pokey fell over.
David landed a mighty blow and crushed you. Sadly, the axe was flat.
You're supposed to be killing him, not tickling him.
Not a tickle fight.
What's going on? What's going on? The whole thing is bad way. Oh, did the buckle break?
Oh, no.
We blow a buckle?
I think we did. I don't see it. Oh, there it is.
Go get it. Yeah, go get one of those real quick. Go get one of those tie-down straps. Hurry, hustle. Water? No.
You may notice that they're having trouble with some of the connecting points, and this was a problem with 14th century transitional harness. It's held on with a series of points and straps. And it would be another few decades before they perfected a system of having the plates hold themselves up and link together. So this was a weakness in the armor that could be exploited by an opponent who could cut the straps loose and cause the armor to work against the opponent and open up weak spots to attack.
That worked.
Old-fashioned hammer.
Oh no. Okay, no mind. I want air.
I blew a strap on this side, they just noticed. Tie it together, guys. It's an important job of the squires to check our harness each time. Even though we're using stout 10-ounce leather on our straps, this kind of motion, we're moving, we're pushing against it. It can break and blow.
Red cord is the best cord! Red cord is the best cord! Red cord is the best cord!
I have no secret.
Like last year, it was like the first last
We're getting something, squire?
Ready.
Straps. Get your upside back. Don't worry about it. Constantine, are you ready? Ready.
Give him the jump.
Right.
Hold up.
Good. Oh, sorry.
Play on.
Give him the jump.
We want that!
Give him the eye. Powerful hit.
Dave, he got you with the axe.
Toysha wins this round.
Yeah, he does. How fast? So, full axe strokes, Toysha. We will now be fighting with the long spear.
Water.
I know they coordinate.
They fixed y'all's AC.
But the all the time is in here makes it easy.
Very disappointing.
You ever get the orange slacks that you can collect thing at one time?
Cool, yeah.
Has the girls screaming up and down that It'll be fun at some point.
It was nice to do that work every so often.
Good. All right, lay on. You got it off. Got it off. What? No, you're good. Keep going.
I know.
Yeah. Get him to the neck.
Hold! Hold! Okay, Brian, you see, get it. David has the point. Knife to the... Oh,
Okay,
good point.
stab one.
All right.
Is this fun?
Yeah.
You may have noticed that when they're in close, they move directly into wrestling moves and shift to the dagger. And sometimes the first man to use the dagger will win. Sometimes they go to ground. These fighting systems integrated wrestling with swordplay. There was no separation between them. It just depends on how close they are, what they will use, what skills they'll use. So this could end up being a ground fight depending on how things go.
Royce, are you ready? David, are you ready? Lay on. Oh, hold. Koista struck a blow to David's neck with the axe. Good point, Koista. Reset your position.
Helm! Wire, adjust my helm!
Hold it down. Nose down. Okay. Chin straps good now? Okay. Yeah. Ready to go, David? Good. Lay on. Up the leg. Oh! Oh, down.
I yield!
Hold! Got his neck, but struck flat. You hear me? Need a breather of water? Yeah.
Just mask up.
Mask up.
Need to adjust my gear. I'm working on it.
You guys are quiet. Are you having fun?
Yeah!
You're like, what the hell's going on? A little bit of pokey fell over.
David landed a mighty blow and pushed it. Sadly, the axe was flat.
Well, buckle. Go get one of those real quick. Go get one of those tie-down straps. Hurry, hustle. Water? No. Strap.
We noticed that you're having trouble with some of the connection points. This was a problem with organizing this transitional harness with a series of points and straps. Another decade before they perfected the system of having the plates hold themselves up and link together. So even a weakness in the armor that could be exploited by an opponent who can cut the straps and cause the armor to work against the opponent and open up weak spots to attack.
I blew a strap on this side. They don't know. Tie it together, guys. It's an important job of the squires to check our harness each time, even though we're using stout down leather on our strap. This kind of motion, we're moving, we're pushing against it. It can break and blow.
Red Court is the best court! Red Court is the best court! Red Court is the best court!
Lay on!
Give him the chow!
Give him the chow!
We want blood!
Powerful hit!
Hold! Dave, he got you with the axe.
Koisha wins this round.
Yeah, he does. Well fought.
Spear.
Go, pull axe goes to Koisha. We will now be fighting with the long spear.
I need my gauntlet.
All right.
Mail. Side.
Good. Good. All right. Lay on. Hoist it. We got it off.
What?
No, you're good. Keep going. David's got it. Does he have it?
That's it.
David's got it. Halt! Halt! Okay, Brian, who did you see get it?
David.
David has the point. Knife to the... You got the point. Oh! All right.
Let's put my phone up.
Let me hold that for you. Check your drop position. No, check your... No. Yeah. No. Check your drop position with your knife. Check your knife position. Is that good?
Yeah.
The dagger will win. Sometimes they go to ground. This fight is wrestling with swordplay. It depends on how close they are, what they will use, what skills they'll use. So this could end up being a ground fight depending on how things go.
Buster, are you ready? David, are you ready? Lay on. up. Hold! David's got it.
That was good to the throat.
Yeah, David, hold! Hold!
Don't actually kill him.
Yeah. Okay, David had the point on that first thrust. That's three. That's two.
Once more into the breach.
One more into the breach, dear friends.
When the spear gets into the nail.
Okay. All right.
They're coming up on him lightly.
Go. Final pass.
But we'll see who gets pushed again.
All right. Ready? Ready. Go. Lay on.
Oh, damn it! I'm going to take the Lord's name in vain, damn it.
You got it? Yeah, he got it. David gets the point. Oh! He got under it. All right. All right. All right.
Oh, sorry.
What's that? Okay, so we have Marcia's won the pole axe, David has won the spear. We are at an impasse. Would you gentlemen fancy one more pass with just the dagger? Gauntlets off. Okay, last fight will be conducted with Thumb War. All right. Marcia, are you ready? Ready. David, are you ready?
Yeah.
Lay on!
1, 2, 3, 4. I declare a thumb war.
All right. If I'm not mistaken, somewhat good cleric of Groton, I believe we would call this a mistrial as the jury is hung.
Indeed. We'll have to find out where that
Good night of England. Helm off, please.
All right.
Thank you so
If
much.
anybody wants a picture with the knife,
All right. Marcia, are you ready?
ready.
David, are you ready?
Yes.
Lay on!
1, 2, 3, 4. I declare a thumb war.
Somewhat good cleric of Groton. I believe we would call this a mistrial as the jury is hung.
Indeed. We'll have to find out where
Good night of England. Helm off, please.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
If anybody wants a picture with the knife,
If you would like pictures with the knife, please come around and see us.
Say hi, Uncle Matt. Hey, Uncle Matt.
Yeah, pretty cool.
You can
Did you find that? No, ma'am, I made it. It was my first project, so I've never been working with it before. This is Delaware, Texas.